Hi everyone. So in this video I'm going to show you one possible way of using sliders in CODAP, and I'll preface this by saying that there are many possibilities for using sliders in CODAP, and I'd encourage you to search the CODAP help forum for the word slider, and if you do that you will find different examples of how people have used sliders before, as well as discussion of how to use sliders in CODAP. So what I'm showing here is the mammals example data set in CODAP. I've added a graph where I've put sleep in hours, so how long mammals sleep on the x-axis, and height in meters for the mammals on the y-axis. And so this example actually came out of the CODAP help page for how to add a movable line to a CODAP document, which you can do by clicking on the ruler to the right of the graph and clicking on movable line. And you can move this line around, and you see here in the yellow it also gives you the equation for the line, so the slope and also the y-intercept. So someone was asking in response to the help page for a movable line whether they could have more fine-tuned control over the line and whether they could copy the values for the height, for the slope of the line, as well as for the y-intercept to use elsewhere in CODAP, such as in other functions in CODAP. And what was suggested for how they could do this was, well, first get rid of the movable line and create a plotted function. A plotted function with the equation m for the slope times x plus b for the y-intercept. So I created that plotted function, but I don't see a line on the graph. Why? Well, we need to create the line. We need to create the m and b variables, and we're going to do that with sliders. So I'm clicking on slider. This appears, and I'm going to rename this variable m for the slope. Okay, and say I'm only really interested in slopes between, I don't know, 2 and minus 2, so I'm going to change the bounds of this slider. And now we will add a second slider for the y-intercept, so renaming the variable b. And hey, immediately the line appears. Now I might change this scale as well. Say I'm only really interested in y-intercepts between, I don't know, -4 and 6. So now I have this line here, and if I move the slider, dragging it, I'm changing the y-intercept to whatever value I want it to be. So say I want it to be 3 or 2.99. I've moved it to precisely there, and I can do the same thing for the slope, changing it to whatever I want. Another cool feature of sliders is, say, okay, let's leave the y-intercept there. I can click on, for the slope, I can click on this play button, and it will actually go through all the possible values for slope. So let's see what happens when I do that. So we see the line slowly moving through the different slopes. So that's quite cool. And then I'll also point out, so these m and b are variables in CODAP now. So whatever value of m is showing here in the slider is what's being used in the function there, and whatever value of b is shown in the slider currently is being used in the function there. And I can use m and b as variables in other functions if I want to. So that is one example of how you could use sliders in CODAP. There are many additional possibilities. I'd encourage you to play around with sliders and see what you can figure out. Thanks.